Hi guys, can you hear me? If you can, please type yes in the comments. Hi guys, can you please hear me? If you can, please type yes in the comments so that we can get started. Guys, am I audible? Okay, there are only 11 people in the live audience, so I will wait for a bit for people to join. So meanwhile, Ankit Sarkar has some questions. I'll answer those. Sir, I already did some course on machine learning. Kindly tell few things to, uh, I'm guessing, do something in the interview. So if you are part of the group that is on WhatsApp, I already have shared the resources there. There is everything that you might need for even ML. Or is there any course in preparation to crack the interview? So yes, there is a interview preparation course that you can sign up for, and you can practice mock interviews with industry experts. So that can help you, Ankit. Excuse me. Anywho, meanwhile, while others are coming, you can look at the assignment problems, what the assignment problems are, and how will you go about it. I will discuss the second assignment problem, which is this. So you know the drill. I did one problem yesterday. I will do the second problem today. So the second problem is make the following table. Make the following table and sort by order count. And sort by order count. So I want every year, I want the total number of orders, I want the total quantity of orders, and I want the total sales. That is quantity into price. Anywho, since the number of people are not increasing, I will just start. So, okay. Faraz Ahmed Khan asks, sir, in how many minutes should we explain our projects in an interview, for example, in an LP project? So, anything that you explain ever in the interview regarding any question is just has to be 30 to 60 seconds long, not longer than that. 60 is still long, so try to finish it in 30 seconds. Okay. And points to include like steps. So you don't want to include steps, but overall what you want to do then what you want to do is explain what is the objective of the project. So it is not about how you did something, it's about why you did something. So if you are able to explain why you did it and then into somewhat basics of how you did it, that okay, I created this sales dashboard which was fully dynamic so that it cannot be it doesn't have to be updated every time, it just refreshes its data based on Power Query or Power Pivot. So all these are Excel things. So uh, basically, if you say it like this, that still sails your boat. So what you want to say is why you did something and some overarching summary of how you did it, but not much detail of what you did and how. Anywho, so let's look at a join question since join was the major concern yesterday as well. And let's look at some interview questions before we to proceed to the questions. So basic questions like what is a database? So it is an organized collection of data which is stored and retrieved digitally. Okay, and it can be stored on a remote or computer system. Okay, what is a DBMS? DBMS is the creation as in when you make the database, when you retrieve it, when you retrieve data from it, and the updation. The updation as in updating the database that you once created and the management of it. So it has to be moved through servers. The health of the data is to be maintained. You have to make sure that the servers are accessible. That's where a DevOps engineer would come in play. So the creation, retrieval, management, and updation of a database is called database management. When these tables become related, they become relational database management systems. Many of the modern database management systems like MySQL, Microsoft SQL, Server, Oracle, IBM, DB2, Amazon Redshift, all these are RDBMS. Okay. Now, what is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is the standard language for database management systems. It is especially useful in handling organized data comprised of entities, variables, and relations between entities of the data. So, as I told you, there are fields and records. So, that is what is SQL about. What is the difference between SQL and MySQL? SQL is a standard language. MySQL is a relational based database management system. It's a language, it is a database management system. That's the difference between SQL and MySQL. What are tables and fields? So tables are organized collection of data stored in the form of rows and columns. A table is an organized set of data in the form of rows and columns, and columns can be categorized as vertical, rows are horizontal, and the columns are called fields and the rows are called records. So this I told you yesterday. Now, what are constraints in SQL? So constraints are like attributes to a column. So what can be your constraint? Your constraint can be that I have 24 hours in my day. This is a limitation with you. So what are the limitation of some particular fields or tables of, or what are the constraints of data in a table? So constraints are used to specify rules concerning data in the table. It can be applied for multiple or single fields. For example, a not null constraint says that this field or column cannot be null. Uh, Check means that it satisfies that there is a condition. So you can already see that if you are to have a numerical column for the telephone numbers, then you can place a check constraint on it. A default constraints automatically assigns a value. So the constraint on a column can be a default constraint, and for example, there can be a transaction column. So if there are no transactions in the column, then give me 0. So that can be the default constraint. The unique constraint says that the constraint has that the column has to be unique. The index constraint says that that particular column is the index. Primary key says that it's the primary key, and foreign key says is the foreign key. Now I told you what's primary key. So primary key constraints usually uniquely identifies each row in a table. It identifies each row in a table. So what is the difference between a primary key and an index? So many times you have the question, what is the difference between an index and a primary key? So like if you look at it, if you look at credit card numbers, I always keep giving these credit card examples because I work in the credit card space. But if you look at credit cards, every row in a table might be identified by the credit card number, but it can still be indexed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in serial number column. So the serial number column that you have is called the index, and the column in which you have a unique identifier which uniquely identifies each row, that is called the primary key. How do you define a primary key? So if you are creating the table, you will say create tables. ID will be integer and it will be not null. So not null will be the constraint on the ID variable and it will be integer. The name variable will be a varchar of 255 characters in length, and the primary key will be the ID variable. So you define the ID variable which is not null because your ID cannot be null because it is the primary key, and then you define it as the primary key. You can also define multiple columns as the primary key, as in this case, that ID comma first name combined to make the primary key. You can also alter the tables to make to add another primary key, and you can also alter a table to add two primary keys at once. There are some practice questions here that you can practice here. This is interviewbit.com for SQL interview questions. You can go there and you can practice these questions. These will help you out. But this is what a primary key is. Is everybody clear about this? What a primary key is? Okay, so primary key is clear. Then what is a unique constraint? So when you are saying that some character is going to be not null, you can also say it is going to be unique, or you can uniquely identify it in a definite row that it is going to be unique. So unique is another constraint, that all the values in a column are different. Each row is identifiable. So as you can see, a primary key has to be unique. So you might have as well written here unique and it would have been primary key. Okay, what is a foreign key? So primary key and then foreign key is the primary key of another column, as I told you yesterday. So you have written foreign key is the library ID column in this particular table. That is the foreign key, and it refers to the library table, and of the library table, this library ID column is related to the library ID field of the library table. This library ID field, which is essentially the library ID field of the table students, which is written here. So I'm defining that this is the foreign key, and whenever I'm defining the foreign key, I also have to give the references. That which table is it related to. And the table it is related to is the library table, and the field with which it is related to the table is the library ID field. That is how I define my foreign key. Is this clear? Foreign key and primary key. This is a very good example, and this gives you a very clear picture of what a primary key and a foreign key is. Okay, these are very important interview questions, so please make sure that you do them. Please make sure that you go to interviewbit.com SQL interview questions. The resources links are all provided in the PDF provided in the WhatsApp description. Sorry, in the WhatsApp group. Uh, Ankit, if you are not a part of the group, you can DM me. You can find my number on the analytics course page, and I will send you the link. Secondly, so these are very important interview questions. Please go to the resource book or the 3-page resource list that I shared. All the links are provided there. I will also go through that resource list, but let's just focus on the questions here. But do try them out on your own. So again, we studied joins yesterday. So let me come back to joins. What is a join? So let's just say if we have table A, and what are the elements of this set? If this is a circle, what does a point denote? So a point denotes the row as in the record. So all the records present in table A, all the records present in table A, and all the records present in table B. Now here this portion, this I like portion is the intersection of table A and table B. So what are these? These are the records that are common to table A and table B. So these are the records that are common to table A and table B. Here these are the records that are only present in table A, and here are the records that are only present in table B. What would a left join mean? A left join would mean that give me only the records of A that are not present in B, and also give me the record. See, left join has two arrows. One arrow is here and one arrow is here in this region. So it shows that left join means the entire set of records of table A, and right join means the entire set of records of table B. Now the question arises, if I have all the set of records of table A, अगर मेरे पास सारे टेबल ए के रिकॉर्ड्स लेफ्ट जॉइन से आएंगे तो व्हाई एम आई जॉइनिंग? आई कैन जस्ट कॉल टेबल ए. Okay, someone's phone is ringing. I'm sorry, there was a disturbance. So now here the question arises that if I have all the records of table A here itself, then why am I performing a join? I can just call table A. But the idea of a join is that you want some columns from table A, but you want corresponding columns from table B. For example, if I have the credit card number in table A and I have the spend data, but I don't have the credit data in table A, then I want to draw the credit data from table B and merge it with table A, and that is why I perform a join. Okay, that is the idea of a join, that you want to borrow columns from the other table. When you don't want to specify which columns, you will just select star, and an inner join would be performed by writing select star from table A, join table B. This is what we saw yesterday. This is what we saw yesterday, that when we don't write anything here, it performs an inner join. Okay. However, when you are performing a left join, you have to write left join on A dot column is equals to B dot column. Similarly, on right join, you have to write which column you are performing the join on, and similarly here as well. Here they have not mentioned the on column, but you can on which column they have joined it, but it's a good practice to always mention it. Okay. You can also write where. So instead of writing on, you can also write where. So select employee ID as employee ID, select employee name as employee. Now you have to understand what is going on here. So this is a self join. What is a self join? What would it mean if I say that I self joined to myself? That I joined my body to my own body. That I merged some parts of my body to my own body. That would be a self join. Similarly, a table joining to itself is called a self join. Up टेबल के सेल्फ ज्वाइन अगर आप कर रहे हो तो द प्राइमरी की विल बिकम द फॉरेन की. सो यू विल एसेंशियली राइट that select something something. So even if you write select star in place of all this, just read what is written here in the from statement. It is written from employee. Employee is the table name and A is the alias. So select this, select all these columns from employee A and employee B, where A dot employee super is equals to employee ID. So here he has not joined the same on the same ID, but he has joined on a different column. So he has joined on a supplier column. So maybe he's seeing if who are the suppliers to the current employees or the supervisors. Okay, he's seeing the supervisors. So supervisor would also be listed in the employee table, but each employee ID will have a supervisor ID. So what you are essentially trying to find is for every employee ID, you will find the employee name, and then you will find the supervisor ID, and then you will find the supervisor. So I am imagining there will be a table in which there will be employee ID, employee name, and supervisor ID, but there is no supervisor name. So you essentially need a supervisor name. So that is why you are performing the join, and you are drawing the first two from the first table and the second from the second table, which is essentially only one table. This is a self join. Self join is a join when you perform to your own self. Is this clear? The example. If not, please just say no. I will try to explain again. You don't have to explain what was not clear. Okay, Karthik says no, so we'll start again. Okay, imagine you have a table in which you have employee ID. Okay, please listen carefully. Imagine a table in which you have employee ID and you have employee name. Okay, and you also have their supervisor IDs listed in the third column. Okay, now this table can be uniquely identified by employee ID because every employee row will be unique, but the supervisor ID will not be unique. और सुपरवाइजर आईडी कॉलम में एसेंशियली लिखा क्या है, तुम्हारे सुपरवाइजर की एम्प्लॉय आईडी, राइट? नाउ इफ यू कैन इमेजिन दिस टेबल, give me how you will write the name of the supervisor in front of the supervisor ID. Essentially तुम्हें क्या चाहिए? तुम्हें हर supervisor ID का supervisor का नाम चाहिए, but supervisor ID is essentially the employee ID of the supervisor. So you want to look up or you want to merge the table to itself, right? So that is what you are doing. You are saying select me the first three columns, select me the employee ID column, select me the employee name column, and give me their supervisor ID column in which the employee ID of the supervisor is mentioned. Now I will perform a join of the table with itself, and I will say that wherever the supervisor ID is equals to employee ID, that is where fetch me the employee name as the supervisor name. See, it is saying that fetch me the employee name as the supervisor name, and that is exactly what is happening here, that it is the same employee ID. You can write here B dot employee ID, B dot employee ID, or A dot supervisor ID. It will not matter because it is the same ID that is being used to join the table, which is the supervisor ID column. Got it? It's a very simple idea. It's just that अपने ही टेबल में से तुम्हें वैल्यू लुकअप करनी पड़ती है. जब भी हमेशा you will have a foreign key column, you will always have a foreign key column, and you will have a column जिसमें से you will know कि okay, now I want to see कि what will come after this column, what will come to the right of this column. अब मेरे को supervisor ID वापस से employee ID में ही सर्च करनी है और उसके बाद उसका नाम ढूंढ के वापस वहां लिखना है. So I'm essentially performing a join to my own self, and that is why this is a self join. Is this clear? Okay, a lot of people have said yes, so I think it is clear. Now let's look at a cross join. Okay, what is a cross join? A cross join is very simple. I have A, B, C. I have 1, 2, 3. I want to make a matrix in which I want every combination of every group. I want A1, A2, A3. I want B1, B2, B3. I want C1, C2, C3. So essentially, I have the names of the students in a column, in a table, and I have the subjects, and I have the subjects in some other table. And I want to make a table in which I want to write the subject and the name one after the other. For every student, I want the subject. I want the subject as well. So what I will do is कि हर नाम के साथ हर सब्जेक्ट रिपीट होना चाहिए. So I want A1, A2, A3. I want B1, B2, B3. I want C1, C2, C3. So essentially, I will perform a cross join. That is a cross join. It will do AX, AY, AZ, BX, BAY, BZ, and CX, CY, CZ. That is a cross join. Is this clear? Okay. Now there were some questions about indexes. I have personally not found indexes to be very useful for interviews. You can prepare for them to be on the safer side. During the time when I prepared, I only prepared for 3 hours, so I didn't like prepare back then. And I have never come across a use case in which clustered and non-clustered indexes are used, except for very advanced cases. So they don't cover advanced SQL, so you don't have to go so dive deeper into clustered and non-clustered index. However, it will take 10 minutes if you do so. So do it at your own perusal if you want to. Now we come to the question, what is a query? So a query is a request for data. And this is what I always say. This is what I always say. What is a query? The word query in English language means a question. I have a query. I have a small query. I have a small question. So it is a request for data. It is a request for information. It is essentially a question that you are asking to a table. And if you look at SQL queries, they are always written that way as well, as if you are asking a question to the table that can you select me, can you select for me the first name and the last names from the table where the student ID is equals to 1. So if you look at a query, it's very intuitive, and that is how you should look at it. Okay, so it's a simple question, or it is a simple request of information from a combination of tables. Okay, select, it can be a select query or it can be an update query. It can be a select query or it can be an action query. There are two types of queries. Okay, so if you are asked what are the two types of queries, it is either a select statement or it's an action statement, updation statement. Okay, in fact, if you, some of you remember from the VBA SQL project, if you have done the analytics course, there was a part in the code where it explicitly handled this updation statement, that if there is an updation to the sheets, then don't add a new sheet, just update it there only. But if there is no updation, then make as enter a new sheet and then enter the result of the query. Just a side step for those who know. Anyways, let's go to what is a subquery and what are its types. So again, I told you a subquery is a query in which the table is not directly referred to, or there is the result of a query that is being used in the query for either filtering or either drawing from the data, whatever you want to be. This query could have very well been replaced here from in the from statement just to replace the table, but here it is serving a different purpose, of course, in the where statement. But the idea here is that it's a result of a query that you are using within a query. So a query within a query, or a nested query, or an inner query, all these are called subqueries. It can be a correlated subqueries as, or it can be an independent query. So if this is somehow related to this, then it is a correlated query. If this is somehow not related to this, then it is an unrelated query. You can read this by yourself. It is very easy. Then we come to the question, what is the select statement? It is just select star from some table. What are some common clauses? So the where statement, that where some field is equals to something or greater than or less than. Where is very common, order by is very common, from is very common, select is very common. Having is also something very common, where you can write having count is equals count greater than 0. So you can write it as where as well, or you can write it as having as well, or you can use another statement called like. So I used it yesterday, where the customer ID is like %6. That means a wild card, and 6. That means anything ending with 6. So that is something you can also use. So you can use where, you can use having, you can use like. Pretty much very common English words, all are common. So you can just go through SQL. It's very intuitive. Just do some questions. You will get the hang of it. Do the assignment, do the MCQs. You will all be good. Okay. Now, I told you how to merge tables horizontally. So if you remember, what was the point of this join? That I wanted to fetch some columns from table B and I wanted to add them to table A. But what if I have two queries? What if I have two queries, two independent queries that are giving me somehow the same number of columns, and I want to append them. I want to append them, like literally write one below the other. मतलब एक दूसरे को मर्ज करना हो, नॉट कॉलम्स नहीं ऐड कर रहे हो, बट कॉलम्स में ही कॉलम्स नीचे रोलिंग डेटा की तरह और पेपर लगा देना हो, जैसे कि और रोज नीचे लिख देना और रोज ऐड कर देना हो. सो व्हाट डू आई डू इज आई विल यूज यूनियन. I will use union of all, which will fetch me duplicates. I will do minus. This will give me the part which is not common. And then I will do intersect, which will give me the common parts. Okay. Now that is what you do when you want to union all, minus or intersect the result of two queries. See, it is a different select statement here. So it's a different query here and a different query here. So when you want to union all, minus or intersect, that is what these commands are for. Okay. Now it starts with entities, relationships, and all the nonsensical questions that you don't have to do, cursor and all. Please don't ever look at these. I have never found a use case even in my job for these. I don't know if I have a light job or these are not important. I seriously feel these are not important. I have met with people who have worked with SQL for 3 to 4 years, and I've never heard them talk about these things. Normalization, denormalization. Okay, normalization is from just statistics, just normalizing something. But very advanced questions, you don't have to look at them all. Look at them at your own convenience and the way you like. But these are the questions that I basically wanted to cover in today's. Yes, these drop, truncate, delete, truncate, all these are important. And yes, this aggregate and scalar functions. So aggregate functions, I told you yesterday that these are the aggregate functions. These are the aggregate functions. These are the functions that sum up the different rows in a column. So if you remember, yesterday we had this city example in which we were trying to find the total number of orders in a city. So in that case, I wanted to count the number of order IDs, the distinct order IDs. So I will use an aggregate function on all the columns that are not being grouped. But a scalar function is based on the input value of a single row. For example, the length of a particular variable, the uppercase of the particular variable, the length case of the particular variable. That is how it operates on a single value. It operates on multiple rows. These scalar functions operate on single values. Okay, now there can be user defined functions as well. Then again, trivial things, you don't have to look at all these. I just covered all the basic questions that you have to do through these. Look at all these basic questions. Here is a webinar. I have never seen this person. He might as well be good. I used to suggest it at some point, but if you don't want to follow through the video, just read through the questions. It's good enough. Now I am done with the questions that I wanted to cover today. Now, do you guys want to practice some more these type of questions, join questions with some live coding experience? So if you want to practice the questions, say yes. Also, if you have any doubts, you can ask right now. If anything is not clear, just mention the topic name. I will cover it again. Union for same number of columns, right? Yeah, so generally you would want same number of columns, Abhishek, for union. Otherwise, it will throw null values in the columns that it can't find. So for example, if you are querying, you have two different queries and they have different number of columns. I'm guessing that in one column that is not present, it will just fill it up with null values. Questions will be good. Okay, so let's look at these questions. Yeah, so let's look at the questions. So the first question for today is that I have year, I have total orders, I have total quantity, and I have total sales. So I want to find out the total orders, total quantity, and total sales for all the years. So let's look at some tables. So first I have the orders table. So in the orders table, I have the number of orders, as I can count the number of distinct order IDs, right? Okay, let's do this as an exercise. Go to try it SQL editor right now. Go to try it SQL editor right now. Look at different tables. Look at different tables. Take 5 minutes time and give me the columns that you will need to extract these particular columns. Which particular column will come from which particular table? I will write the formulas here. This is this is the year. For example, this is a 2018. This is total number of orders. It can be any XX value. It can be total quantity YY, and the total sales is gonna be YY into unit price. So now go back to the tables. Look at the table. Look at the tables. Take a guess and try to imagine as well. I know you are new to SQL, but look at the data, and जितना डेटा है उतना सबके लिए है. मेरे लिए भी उतना ही है, आपके लिए भी उतना ही है. तो अगर कहीं से ईयर आ रहा है, अगर कहीं से टोटल सेल्स आ रही है, तो हाउ डू यू एक्चुअली क्रिएट दोस टेबल्स? हमारे पास जो एग्जिस्टिंग डेटा है उससे कैसे हम टेबल से डेटा निकालें जिससे हमें ईयर भी मिल जाए, टोटल ऑर्डर्स भी मिल जाए, टोटल क्वांटिटी भी मिल जाए, टोटल सेल्स भी मिल जाए. What should we find out? Yeah, group by year is good. How to convert date to year? Saurabh, you tell me. Look at the tables and tell me what variable can be used to find out the year, and then group by year. Count distinct order ID for orders. Yes. Others, if you will participate, you will learn yourself. This is very helpful. If you will try to go to the editor and see for yourself what particular variables will work, it will help you in understanding how to go about doing SQL. I will wait for others. It's not that I'll not wait, but please try. So, okay, Saurabh has given some answers. So Saurabh has said that we will count distinct orders for distinct order ID for total orders. Fine, we will do that. Then order details dot quantity. So let me look at the orders details table. Order details table. So the order details table has all the quantity. Yes. So it has all the quantity. So I have the quantity as well now. So the quantity is done. I still need a way to convert the date to year. Okay, so I will tell you how you convert it. So it's very simple. It works different ways for different languages, but here the function used is called strf time. So in other languages other than strf time, you can use the year function as well. So you directly write year bracket open the variable name and then you get the year value. But here you can just write it like this, that select strf time, then you specify the date and then the variable. So if I have the solution here, here must be the answer. Year function will give error. Yes, year function will give error. You have to use strf time. So you have to use strf time like this. Now I still need a way to find total sales. Can somebody tell me how to find total sales? Nikhil, Prateek, Karthik, Sharvari, Faraz, Ankit, Rishank, Akshat. If you guys are there, you can answer as well. So sales is not average of quantity. summing quantity and multiplying by its price. So Saurabh has given the correct answer that if you sum up the quantity and multiply by the price, sum quantity for different product ID. Yes, sum the quantity for different product IDs and then multiply them with the total sales. Okay, so let's just start with writing the code. I think we have enough idea. People are getting along quite nicely. So, okay, so I will write strf time, then the formatting, percentage y, then comma, then my variable. So my variable is coming from orders table. So o dot order date. Okay. Then I will close this bracket as year. Now this is year. I have year now. Next I need is total quantity. Now, no, so total number of orders. So the total number of orders will be count distinct order details. So order ID as orders. Okay. Then I need the total quantity. So I will need count. No, I will need sum of quantity. Okay. I will need sum of quantity as quantity. Then I need the last variable, which is the sales. I need the sales. I need the sales. So I will say that sum quantity into unit price into price. This is p dot price. This is od. Uh, this is the order details table, right? Yes, order details table. So od dot quantity. This will be od dot quantity. This will be order ID. So o dot order ID. Now p dot price. This will sum up for me very nicely as sales. Okay. Now I will press enter. I will say from. So which table I am drawing this from? So first I am drawing from the orders table as O. From orders O, join order details on O dot order ID is equals to OD dot order ID, and I want to perform a left join. I want all the dates from all the orders from the orders table. Okay. Then I want to join another table, so I will join. Then I will perform a left join again. Left join uh, order products table, products P, order details will be OD, products P on O dot OD dot order, OD dot product ID is equals to P dot product ID, then group by 1, order by 2. Let's see if this works. O dot order the ID. Okay. So this is order ID. Okay. So it is showing me that my total orders are these, my total quantity is this, and my sales is this. Is this correct? right? So did you understand what is happening here? There were three joins. I performed the left join, and I uh, did this. So quantity into price, since the row since each order has different quantities, it will automatically fetch the price and it will give me the correct answer. So it says in 1997. So if you look at here, uh, I want the order date as a year, and that order date is coming from the orders table. Okay, that is coming from the orders table. So let me just quickly play around a bit with the data, and you will understand what the joins are doing. So let's delete this statement. Okay, my battery is running low. So let's delete this statement. Control X, and I will just paste it here for now. And I will say select star. I will say select star and give me a join. Give me a complete join of the table and give me whatever you have. So it shows me all the columns from all the joins that have been performed. Okay. It shows me that there is an order ID column, there is a customer ID column, there is an employee ID column, there is an order date column, there is a shipper ID column, and there is a then here you can see that the new columns are from the order details table. As you remember that this order detail ID is the first column of the order detail table. Similarly, product ID, quantity are all a part of the order details table. The order ID column is also a part of the order details table, but it has also already been covered when the orders table, because it was the first table here. So all the columns of the orders table are first listed here until shipper ID. So since order ID column is already listed here, so the order detail table doesn't have it. Now, here in the products table, you have the product name, the supplier ID, the category unit, and the price. Category ID and the unit and the price. Now the price is 36 and the quantity is 1. Similarly, 21 into 24, and we can see that we didn't miss any orders because all the orders are placed in either 1996 or 1997. So if you can see the screen, it is already 1996 and 1997. And let's just copy paste the data. Let's just copy paste the data in Excel and see for ourselves if our analysis is correct. Okay, I will not do that. Maybe it will become very tedious for me to perform the analysis, or it will take me 2 minutes. I don't know. But I don't want to somehow do it. I don't want to merge SQL with Excel. But that is the idea, that the order date is, you can copy the data for yourself and you can see that the order date is all summed up, and there are total 196 records. There are total 196 records. So I am guessing that the total orders should always sum up to the total orders, because an order can only be an order detail, an order ID can only have one order date, right? So every order, so the total number of orders should sum up when we perform the join and we find the final answer. So in this case, if it is 2 years only, 1996 and 1997, then the total orders should add up. If they are adding up, then it's fine. Similarly, the total quantity should add up. So if I just sum the quantity, if I just rewrite here, Control C, and if I write this here, so I can see that 44 plus 152 is 196. So this is correct. My order date is definitely correct. Now I want to see if the quantity can be QC'd. If I can quality check and tell that my quantity additions are correct, that it is summing up the quantity correctly, right? So if I want to check that, what I will do is I will okay. Where is the quantity? So I will just copy this whole, or actually I'll copy the tab. I will copy the tab and I will open it here. So If you look at the tables, so the quantity was in order details, right? So it is in order details. So what I will do is I will sum by quantity. I will sum the quantity and I will see what's the answer. So the total quantity is 12743. Now, are we getting 12743 here? Yes, it is roughly 12,000. So our quantity is also correct. Now we have to check the sales. Now we have to check the sales. So the only way to check sales actually is performing a simple join between order details and products table and then finding a sum, and then checking if the total number of products, if the total number of price, if the total price is matching for all the orders between the 2 years. This is this is okay, whatever. So this is how you QC something. This is how you perform SQL joins, and this is how you QC your joins. And I think if you can QC your joins, if you can understand what is a left join, what is a right join, why are we doing a left join on orders, why do I want to include all orders, what is the meaning of left join here. If you can understand all those things, if you can understand constraints, if you can understand subqueries, if you can understand the where, having, like, all those statements, I think you are more than good to go. Just blatantly shout out in your interviews that I know SQL, I know SQL, I know SQL, to the point where they end up asking you SQL, and you display your prowess and you go and get your happy job. Seriously, SQL is used everywhere. Just I can never stop about the uses of SQL. It was such a big world that was unknown to me until last year. And now that I know it, I cannot stop professing about it. So please do go practice on your own. Please, if you have any doubts, ask on the group. It's all about you. This last 1 week prep will pay you a lot. Abhi mehnat kar lo. I'm telling you from my last year experience. Uh, Today as well, I was sitting with three other IITians, all of us from IIT Kanpur. We know what it is like. We understand. हम सबको कॉल आ रहे हैं juniors के कि ये बता दीजिए, ये बता दीजिए. And this is the most I can offer. This is the only thing I can offer to you as a junior. So please do this. This will help you a lot. Okay. प्लीज प्रिपेयर फॉर एसक्यूएल. अगर रेज्यूमे में नहीं भी लिखा हुआ है तो भी बोल देना कि मुझे आती है, बता देना उनको तो मैं एसक्यूएल आती है, वो खुद पूछ लेंगे. एंड परफॉर्म वेल. ओके, practice questions, practice things, practice the resources that I've shared in the group, and please perform well, and you will be able to crack the interview. I'm telling you, हलवा होता है, सब कुछ हलवा होता है. You can do these things very easily. Okay, Himanshu has a question. Okay, the second sem third year guy has a problem. Please address with me in DMs. Also, Himanshu, please state the difference between SQL and tabular data analysis. So SQL is something that you do to run queries on servers. So for example, right now you have data which has 91 records, 8 records, if you can see. So the customers table will have 91 records, categories table has 8 records, and all those things. But here, if I tell you about my work, so I work at Amex, right? So now the thing with Amex is that there can be like what 256 kinds of cards. I don't know, like 21.8 million subscribers or 21.8 million users, something like that. Like these numbers, these are huge. The transactions of these credit cards. Sorry, can you hear me again? Guys, can you hear me again? Yes, good. So just to conclude the session, I think I was in my final words when it got disconnected. So the question was that how is SQL different from Tableau? So it's very simple. SQL is run on basically very large amounts of data to summarize it in the form of publishable reports. Now, when this data comes down to 1.5 million rows or something, you have an analysis, you have summarized the data, you have cleaned the data up, you have completed all those preliminary analysis, and now you have finally something that you can visualize. You have some summarized data that you can visualize. So for example, in Amex, what I will have is I will have credit transactions of all the data. For example, like I have all the data for all the transactions that are happening on a particular card, or on all the cards, I can access that data. But still, I have to summarize that how many people spent on the particular partner for which I have to run the analysis on. Tableau cannot do that. You still have to write SQL queries in Tableau for it to fetch the data, and then you have to operate on that data and visualize it to form a Tableau dashboard. That's how Tableau is different from an SQL tool. SQL is more like an analysis tool, and Tableau is more like a visualization tool. So those are two different parts of the data journey. So if you were to imagine any analytical problem, that is how it is done. At first you extract the data, you clean the data, and then finally you work on the data to make reports and visualize it. And the visualization comes in the end, and that is why Tableau comes in the end. Okay, that is all for the session today. If you have any doubts, please feel free to DM me on WhatsApp. You always have my number. I'm always available. Second sem, third year guy, if you still have a problem, you can address that with me on WhatsApp. I will not be bashful. I am generally very polite to all the feedback that I get. And regarding everything else, I always like to take these discussions face to face. Thank you everyone else. Tomorrow we'll be having the Excel session. In the Excel session, we will be covering the basics of what might be asked about Excel in the interviews. Okay, it will be a 1 or 2 hour long sessions, 1 or 2 hour long